Alright, so in today's video we'll take a look at this guy here. This is a new analog FPV camera by Caddx FPV, and as you can see here it's called the Gazer. Now I don't know a whole lot about this camera, but I think it's basically a successor to the Caddx Infra analog FPV camera. For those of you that don't know, the Caddx Infra was a ultra low light night vision FPV camera, and this is basically the same. However, unlike the Infra camera, which shot in black and white, this one apparently shoots in full color. Now, I've also seen some mention online that apparently this camera's got a optical zoom built into it. I think it's a 3x optical zoom, which is a very unique feature to have on an FPV camera, especially on a night vision FPV camera. So I'm going to be very keen to, have a look at this, play around with it and see what it's capable of. Now, as you can see, I haven't even sort of taken the wrap off of this yet. I haven't opened it, so we're going to be doing that together. So let's do that now. Let's get a knife and cut the cellophane wrap and see what we get in the box. That's the wrap off. Open up the end. This is packaged just like every other sort of Caddx camera, especially the walk style cameras. Pull that out, and then we've got a Caddx Gazer quick start guide, which is written in English and Chinese. And then we've got a little bag here with a couple of different wiring looms in there. And then most importantly of all, we've got the camera. I'm trying to get out of the packaging here. And the camera also comes with this little box here. So superficially, this looks very, very similar to the Caddx Infra. I'll put a picture on the corner of the screen there so you can kind of see what it looks like. Like as you can see, very, very similar looking camera. The little AI box here though, this is a little bit different to the Infra because it's a little bit smaller. It's a thinner box. The Caddx Infra is much thicker. And also it's got 3 ports on the side here. There's one port here. That's the main port for providing power to the camera and also for getting the video signal out. But yeah, there's 3 different ports here that I'm not fully sure what they're for. We'll find that out in a moment when we have a look at the instruction manual. But yeah, that's basically what you get. Here's a camera. It's got a interesting looking, I don't know if that's a lens hood or not. We'll figure that out in a little bit. It's a little bit smaller, I think the camera is a little bit smaller than the one that you get on the Infra. But yeah, superficially, looks very, very similar. Let's now have a quick look at the instruction leaflet and see if I can make any sense of that. So it lists here the main features of the camera. And yeah, it says it's an ultra low light, full color night vision FPV camera, which is what I already knew. It says it's got a detachable filter. So this little bit on the end of the camera here, that is removable. Apparently the reason for that is so that if you can, using it in the daytime, you take the filter off, using it in the nighttime, you put the filter on, or vice versa, not really sure. It says it's got AI image enhancement, which is what this little box unit here is for, some kind of like fancy AI processing. And yeah, it says it's got an adjustable zoom function up to 3x magnification. Gonna be very interested to play around with that. Now, as for the wiring, so as I already said, this plug on the end here, that's going to be the power and the video signal out. And then apparently on the end here, this big plug there, that's the one that's going to be used for controlling the zoom. Apparently you have to connect that to a flight controller. You can then send a PWM signal, which will control the zoom. Very interested to play around with that. Finally, we'll just mention it does sort of list some of the specs here. So model Caddx Gazer, image sensor, it's a 1/1.8 inch sensor. Resolution, interestingly, even though this is an analog FPV camera, it actually lists the resolution as being 1920 by 1080p, which would be HD. Not really sure how that works. Apparently it's a 1500 TVL camera. Focal length 2.8mm, aperture f1.0, which is obviously very good for low light. Field of view 131.6. That's a very precise field of view, but nice and wide. The output format is PAL. The frame rate is 50 frames per second. As I've already mentioned, magnification is 3x optical zoom, which I'll be interested to play around with. Aspect ratio 4:3. And the supply voltage is 9 to 24 volts. So a nice wide voltage range there. So yeah, so that's a very quick look at obviously what you get in the box and the manual. So I think the thing to do now is to get this installed into one of my aircraft so we can then go and actually play around with it and see what it's like. Let's do a jump screen. Okay, so it's 24 hours later, and as you can see, I've now got the Caddx Gazer installed on my Holybro X500 V2 quadcopter. And yeah, getting installed was an interesting process. Superficially, just installing the camera and getting it working took no time at all. As I showed you earlier, it's just a simple plug with a power, ground, and a video signal wire. Connecting them up to the flight controller and getting an image out of the camera, that literally took a couple of minutes. That wasn't complicated at all. Getting the more advanced features of the camera working, that proved to be quite problematic. In fact, it's taken me pretty much all afternoon to get it working. As I mentioned earlier, the camera does have a zoom function on it, and to get the zoom function to work, you have to connect the camera to the flight controller via a UART. But it turns out the camera has also got a dedicated day mode and a dedicated night mode. If you want to fly at night time in the dark, you need to be able to switch into the night mode. And getting that working proved to be also really tricky. Now, the reason it was tricky, it might not be tricky for you, but the reason it was tricky for me is because the camera comes with a little instruction leaflet. There's also a manual online which goes into a little bit more detail. But the instructions on how to sort of connect the camera up and sort of configure it to do what you want it to do, they only show you how to do it in Betaflight. And the problem is this aircraft here is running ArduPilot. So I had to kind of sort of figure out how to sort of translate the instructions from Betaflight into ArduPilot, which is a lot more tricky than you might think. I ended up having to rely on ChatGPT quite a lot, and there's also quite a lot of trial and error. And also the wiring, I had to kind of sort of figure out how to do the wiring myself, because it's a little bit different to how you might do it with Betaflight. I just need to mention the instruction leaflet that came with the camera. It's full of errors. The wiring schematic on there is wrong. Also, it tells you that you need to orientate the camera a certain way when you install it, otherwise the image will be upside down. However, they've got that completely wrong as well. So all that kind of stuff, it did slow me down quite a bit. However, I now have it working. So what you see here at the moment is not an image from the Caddx Gazer. This is an image from the Caddx Infra, because I've got the Caddx Gazer and the Caddx Infra running in parallel on this aircraft, because when I take it out for a flight, I want to be able to do a direct comparison between the two. So yeah, the image you're seeing on the screen at the moment, this is from the Caddx Infra. But if I hit this switch on the back of my radio now, you'll see it's now switched to the Gazer, and you know it's a Gazer because it's a color image. That is sort of the main selling point of this camera. Is it's supposed to be a low light night vision camera, but it can shoot color, unlike the Caddx Infra, which shoots in black and white. So there's the Infra, there's a Gazer. The image is, mostly the same. Like the field of view is almost exactly the same. There isn't really any difference in the image quality whatsoever, other than the fact that you get color with the Gazer. Now, like I said, the camera has a dedicated day mode, and it's also got a dedicated night mode. So I've got that enabled on a switch on my radio. It was a little bit tricky to set this up, because the instruction manual wants you to use a UART to control the switching from day mode to night mode. However, that doesn't work quite like that with ArduPilot. With Betaflight, they want you to basically remap one of the pins to act as a relay, but you can't do that with ArduPilot. So instead, you have to use an actual relay pin on the flight controller. I was very lucky that my flight controller's actually got a spare relay pin. If I didn't have one, I don't think I'd be able to get this to work. So you might want to be mindful of that. If you're interested in getting one of these cameras, you're going to need a flight controller, which is going to allow you to either remap the pins, or it's going to have a relay pin available. But yeah, I had to wire it to the relay pin. I had to then sort of like program in some special codes, yada, yada, yada. It was all quite complicated, but I'll put it up in the corner here, the sort of the codes and the steps I had to do, just in case anyone's interested in following them. But anyway, like I said, I've got a switch on my radio, which allows me to switch between day and night mode. Now, I don't really know why this is, but when I enable the switch, when I press it down, nothing will happen. However, when I then press the switch a second time, then it will change from one mode to the other. I don't know if that's the sort of the expected behavior or just what I've got because I'm running ArduPilot. I don't know. But basically, up in this right-hand corner here, hopefully you'll be able to see it when I do it, you're going to see a letter appear. It'll either be a D for day mode or an N for night mode. So at the moment, I think it's in day mode. If I press the switch down once, enabled, as you can see, nothing happens. But if I then press the switch a second time, after a little bit of a delay, see that it will N appear in the corner, tell you that night mode's been enabled. And also you'll notice that the color of the image slightly changed. If I put it back into day mode again, enabled. Like I said, it's a little bit of a delay, but you'll notice that the color as well as getting this letter in the corner, you can tell you've changed modes because the color changes. The day mode is quite warm.
Enabled.
The night mode has got much cooler colors to it. Now, when you use the camera in the daytime, you're supposed to use it with this filter on, which is what I've got now. But when you use it at nighttime, you're supposed to take the filter off. I haven't tried that yet. I will try that later on. But yeah, I'm guessing the filter's got maybe a UV filter or something in it. You need to take that off to let more light in. I don't know. We'll figure it out later on. But yeah, so that is switching between the day mode and the night mode, which obviously is important for me because I want to test this system at night. Now, the other feature of this camera, and sort of a feature I think quite a lot of people are interested in, is the fact that it's supposed to have an optical zoom. Well, I can confirm to you that it does have a zoom, but Caddx was lying. It's not an optical zoom, it is a digital zoom. So I've got a 3-position switch enabled on the back of my radio because it can do 3 times optical zoom, sorry, 3 times digital zoom. So position 1 is normal zoom, position 2 on the switch would be 2 times zoom, and then position 3 would be 3 times zoom. So what I'll do, turn my DVR on a minute. What I'll do is I'll demonstrate that for you now. So at the moment you've got it in the standard zoom, zoom level 1, put it into zoom level 2, and then we'll put it into zoom level 3. Now, probably on the camera screen at the moment, it probably doesn't look sort of particularly interesting, but hopefully in the corner you'll have a little DVR image that will show you. And you'll see that the image is certainly very pixelated, certainly on zoom level 3. Back out to 2, it's not too bad, and obviously 1 is fine. But yeah, it's very much a digital zoom, and as you'd expect, the quality does get degraded quite a lot when you zoom in. Whether you care about that or not, I guess it depends on you, and I guess it depends on, you know, the situation, what you're looking at. You might find this to be a useful feature, you might not. I'm certainly pretty underwhelmed with it at the moment whilst testing here on the bench, but you know, when I get out and actually test this in flight later on, maybe I'll actually enjoy that as a feature. So yeah, like I said, it's taken me pretty much all afternoon to get this working, but I have now got it set up, sort of ready to go. So all I need to do is obviously reassemble the quad, and then we'll wait for it to get dark, and then if the weather will allow, we'll go out and we'll fly this. But at the moment it's quite windy. If I can't get out and fly, then instead I'll just take it out somewhere and we'll test it out in some sort of dark conditions anyway. Anyway, that's enough of me talking. Let's fast forward to the night time and actually go test this out in the dark. Let's go. Okay, so it's now about 11:30 at night. The sun set about sort of 2.5 hours ago. As you can see, it's now plenty dark. I'm not even sure if you can see me on the camera at the moment because it is that dark. And yeah, I'd love to say that I'm about to fly, but unfortunately, as I kind of said earlier, it is actually really windy. It's got even more windy now. It's now blowing sort of around 35 to 40 mile an hour gusts. So it's entirely not suitable for me to fly. And you know, I apologize if you can't hear me very well. My microphone has got a dead cat on it, but if you hear some wind noise, now you know why. So yeah, annoyingly, I'm not going to be able to fly and do a camera test with the Caddx Gazer up in the air. However, I don't think that really matters too much. At the end of the day, this is just a night vision sort of camera. Whether it's in the air or whether it's on the ground, we can still test it and sort of see how good it is. So that's what we're going to do. I've got the drone sort of set up on the back of my car. It's all powered up and it's all ready to go. My DVR is on, so I'll put that on the screen now. And yeah, what you're seeing at the moment is an image which is coming from the Caddx Infra. Now, I've got my goggles on my head, so I'm going to pull them down so I can see what I'm talking about as I talk about it. So yeah, this is an image recorded with the Caddx Infra. And you know, as I've mentioned in my sort of previous videos talking about this camera, this is an absolutely excellent camera for seeing in the dark. It is by far the best FPV camera for night vision. And as you can see in this field here, you know, you can make out pretty much all the details. You know, you can clearly see me, you see the field, see the trees in the background, you know, you can see detail in the clouds. And yeah, hopefully as you can see in the GoPro footage, it is very, very dark here. You know, if I took the goggles off my head for a minute, I can't make out hardly any details at all. There's a couple of street lights, there's a little path on the edge of the field here, and there's a few lights there. So I can just about make out that path, but I can't make out any details in the field here. And yeah, I can make out with the goggles, I can make out that there's a goalpost roughly here where my finger is, down there. But I can't see that with my eye. So yeah, so the Caddx Infra, very, very good low light FPV camera. And this is very much sort of going to set the standard. But obviously the point of this video is to have a look at the Caddx Gazer. And yeah, we're going to do a direct comparison. Now we're going to do this test in 4 parts. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to switch the camera to the Caddx Gazer now. And there we go. And this is a test of the Caddx Gazer in daytime mode. And this is with the filter still attached. Now, obviously you're supposed to take the filter off to, use it at night time, but I thought it'd be interesting to just see what the difference is. So this is the Caddx Gazer in daytime mode with the filter on, but being used at night. And yeah, as you can see, there's color. I'm wearing a bright red hoodie. I did that on purpose so you can see it. And yeah, you can clearly make out the color of my hoodie. And you can tell that the grass here is green. There's a red light over there in the distance. And yeah, you can see color in this, which is very good. You can see my blue jeans as well. You can see that my radio is green, red light on my mic, red light on the back of my radio. You got good color. Is it as good as the Infra for seeing in the dark though? Switch back to the Infra. I mean, it's not far off. It's not quite as good, but yeah, it's not far off. I don't think you can maybe just about make out that goalpost down there. It's not as pronounced as it is with the Infra camera, but yeah, you can just about make it out. It's not bad. It's not bad. But anyway, let's now switch the camera into night mode. And this is, again, it's going to be night mode, but with the filter still attached. So flick switch on and then off. You'll see a N in the corner. There you go. And this is now the camera in night mode. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because, you can still quite clearly see, but the colors have completely changed. If anything, they've become quite desaturated, I think. You can still sort of tell that I'm wearing a reddish top, although it's nowhere near as bright as it was before. My trousers look sort of more grey. There's way less colour in the field. I mean, I can hardly see the green and the grass at all. And yeah, I mean, weirdly, you've actually lost a lot of detail on my radio as well. Yeah, you can sort of see it's green, but nowhere near as well. So yeah, it is interesting that switching to night mode with the filter on, you sort of lose some colour. I guess that's indicative of kind of the way that the camera is working. Let's just switch back to day mode again.
Enabled.
You see the D in the corner, there you go. Yeah, there's definitely more colour in the day mode as there is compared to the
Enabled.
night mode, as you can see here. Now, is this mode as good as the Infra? Can we see that goalpost? Maybe just about see it down there. But yeah, it's not as good as the Infra, is it? There's definitely more detail in the Infra. But this isn't bad. I'm actually quite impressed with this. Like I said, this is colour, So I guess what you gain in colour, you maybe lose in a little bit of its night vision capabilities, but this is still very impressive. And I'd argue this is still a lot better than just about any other FPV camera out there, with the exception of, obviously, the Caddx Infra. Anyway, what we're now going to do is I'm going to take the filter off of the camera. God, it's a lot darker. My eyes got used to seeing with that. Yeah, so I'm going to take the filter off of the camera, and then we're going to test to see, what is the day mode and night mode like, without the filter actually on board. Let's do that now. Okay, so I've just taken the filter off of the Caddx Gazer. So now let's see what the camera's like in day and then also night mode. So as you see, we're back to the Infra mode. I just put it back to that just so we've got a bit of a comparison. But let's now switch to the Gazer. So this is, as you see, this is the Caddx Gazer with the filter removed. And yeah, I think the improvement is actually quite noticeable. Like I said, this is still in day mode, but I think there's a lot more detail and a lot more color information coming through in this mode than there was previously in day mode with the filter attached. I will put sort of screenshots up so you can sort of see sort of direct comparisons between one mode and the other. But yeah, I'd certainly say at the moment, day mode with the filter removed looks a lot better than it did previously with the filter still attached. Colour is fantastic. I mean, you really clearly see I'm wearing a red top. You can clearly see the grass is blue, sorry, green. Yeah, I'm really quite impressed with this and sort of how much detail that we can see. But anyway, the most important thing you want to see, is what is this camera actually like in night mode? So let's now switch to that.
Enabled.
It's quite a lag to get there, but there we go. So this is now the Caddx Gazer in night mode with the filter removed. So this is how you are supposed to use the camera if you're going to use it at night. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because I feel like actually the color information's been lost a little bit. I think that the image looks sort of more vibrant and more colorful when it was in day mode with the filter removed, as opposed to this, in night mode. Still a good image though. I mean, still see plenty of detail here. Still clearly see the color of my top, the color of my trousers. You can tell the grass is green. It's much more subdued though. Let me just put that back into day mode a minute. Yeah, I definitely think you get more color information in day mode. That's really interesting. I'm not really sure, why that would be. I think day mode actually has a sort of a slightly better image for the low light here than the night mode. It's interesting, and I'll be interested to know what you guys think. But let's compare this to the Infra a moment. So obviously, yeah, with the Infra, you can see fantastic detail here. Can we see more in color mode with the Gazer? I'm not really sure. I think both modes here, both cameras here are actually performing very, very well. Gazer in night mode with the filter removed. Infra in sort of standard configuration. You can see that that goalpost there fine on the Infra. It's just behind my crosshairs there on the camera. That's annoying. Let me just move the camera down a little bit with the gimbal, just so we can. Yeah, you can clearly see the goalpost there in the distance on the Gazer here. Yeah, I'm actually pretty impressed with this. And actually, it's interesting as well. It's like looking at the Infra. One kind of weird downside to the Infra is it's so good at taking a light source and kind of magnifying it. Actually, you lose detail a little bit. I mean, like, look at my top here. It's just sort of completely bathed in light here, which is coming from my radio. It's the only light source that's here. But go to the Gazer. Actually, the exposure's not so bad. I mean, you can actually make out some detail in my top here. You can kind of tell that there's textured and there's writing there with the Gazer. Can't see that all with the Infra. So, yeah, that's interesting. I'm actually pretty impressed with this. I kind of played around with this a little bit at home earlier. I sort of closed the curtains and stuff, and yeah, I wasn't sort of super impressed with it at home, but actually out here in the field now, I'm actually pretty impressed. Let's just change the mode again. So that's back to day mode. I do think day mode is better than night mode. How does that compare to the Infra? There's that distant goalpost. You can still see it there as well. Yeah. I think day mode is very slightly better. And yeah, removing the filter from the camera definitely improves things. I'm not sure what that filter does. I'm going to guess it's a sort of an infrared filter or something, maybe a UV filter. But removing it certainly does improve things when you're sort of using it in sort of low light. But yeah, I'm actually pretty damn impressed with this. A problem to use whilst flying at all. I'm really annoyed that obviously it's really, really windy here and I can't fly today, because I'd love to get this up in the air and actually test it properly. I'm going to guess there's going to have to be a part 2 video for this. But yeah, Infra, the current standard for being the ultra low light FPV camera. And then the Gazer. I think it might be an upgrade, you know, ultra low light, but with color. I'm actually pretty impressed. Now, I guess the one thing that we should do before I sort of pack up and head home is just kind of play around with the camera zoom a little bit, just while we're here. You know, it is a feature of the camera. As I said earlier on, I wasn't sort of super impressed with it at home, but as you can see, I've stepped away from the camera a little bit so we can kind of try it out a little bit. So this is the camera on the standard zoom, zoom level 1. Let's put the camera into zoom level 2, and then let's put the camera into zoom level 3. As you can see, yes, it has zoomed the image in, but it is very, very pixelated. And especially at this time of day, you know, where it is dark, the image is very noisy because, you know, there's a high ISO, and that just makes the image look even more pixelated, you know, when you zoom in. I don't really love this zoom feature on the camera. I'm not really sure why it's there. I don't really think that I would use it. I can't really see anyone else sort of finding any particular use for this. You know, it's not a proper optical zoom. it's a bit of a gimmick really. It's nothing sort of fantastic. But yeah, there you go. You know, I've experimented with the camera zoom. It's not amazing, but yeah, the Caddx Gazer, its ability to sort of actually shoot in low light, in the dark, I'm actually very, very impressed. Now, because the Gazer also has a daytime mode, the following day I did go out and I did do some experimentations with the camera in the daylight. Now, annoyingly, I did narrate this at the time of doing it, but apparently my microphone didn't work and didn't record any audio. But I will just put a little bit of that footage up on the screen for you now. And yeah, in daytime, you know, with the camera in sort of daytime mode with the filter on board, it's a very, very nice image that you get from the camera. It's a perfectly usable image. It's got nice vibrant colors. It's nice and clear. There's absolutely no reason why you couldn't use the Gazer in the daytime. Now, I did, as I did with the nighttime tests, I did sort of experiment with the different modes. So, I mean, this is obviously daytime mode with the filter on. Just for curiosity, I did also try nighttime mode with the filter on. And yeah, much like I saw with the nighttime tests, switching to nighttime mode, it just sort of desaturated the colors. I'm not really sure why it does that. But again, yeah, you could fly with it if you wanted to. Now, just for curiosity's sake, I did also experiment with using the camera in daytime mode with the filter removed. And yeah, as you can see, the image ended up being very, very pink. I think this is very indicative of sort of the way the camera's working. And I think that filter, it's got to be like a UV filter, I think, because I'm pretty sure that, UV photography ends up being sort of quite pink. I don't know that for sure. I'm just kind of speculating, but either way, I find it very interesting that, in the daytime with that filter removed, the image is very, very pink. And yeah, same when I put the camera into nighttime mode, it was still pink, but the color was desaturated. So yeah, the camera is perfectly usable in the daytime. Obviously though, it's sort of designed to be used as a night vision camera. And yeah, I'm actually really, really impressed with it. I know I've already said that a few times, but yeah, I am really impressed with it. Especially considering the fact that the Gazer is sort of roughly half the price of the Caddx Infra. And yet the quality is almost as good. I wouldn't say it's quite as good at seeing in the dark, but it's almost as good at seeing in the dark. But you get the added benefit of, having a full color image. I certainly think it's better than any other sort of FPV camera out there for seeing in the dark. I mean, I really can't stress enough how dark it was in that field when I was there. But yeah, the Gazer was able to see, really, really well. And yeah, I think my sort of conclusion from the experiments as well is that if you want to use the Gazer at night time, do take the filter off, but use it in the daytime mode. Using it in the nighttime mode also worked, as you saw, but using the daytime mode just seemed to get way more sort of like color. It's a much more vibrant image, and you didn't really seem to sort of like sacrifice sort of your ability to sort of see details or anything. So yeah, that would be sort of my conclusion. And that's what I'm probably going to do in part 2. When I actually get to go out and test this camera in flight at nighttime, I'm probably going to mostly be using the camera in daytime mode, but with the filter removed. So yeah, now the only other thing I just want to mention is I did say sort of earlier on in the video that I thought that the Gazer camera had optical zoom, and then I kind of called Caddx out on that. I think actually I sort of owe Caddx an apology. I did sort of do a little bit of research. When Caddx announced the Gazer, they also announced a second camera called the Farsight. They announced both cameras simultaneously, and it turns out that the Farsight camera, that one does have a optical zoom. So I'm guessing I just misread it when I saw the initial sort of post about the cameras. I guess I just misread it and I assumed that it applied to both cameras, but it's not, it's a Farsight. So yeah, the Farsight camera, that's the one that's got an optical zoom. The Gazer, as you saw, doesn't. But yeah, so anyway, that is basically all I've got to say for this video. But I hope you found this sort of interesting. I hope you're kind of just as impressed with the camera as I am. Like I said at the start of this video, this is not a sponsor review. I bought this camera with my own money, so I'm not sort of obliged to say nice things about this camera. I am just genuinely, quite impressed with it. I think it actually did work, pretty well. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, as always, please do give it a like down below, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers, guys. Bye.